Hello, I'm the Reverend Jennifer Brower, and I'm one of the ministers who serves the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock, located in Manhasset, New York. Today, on behalf of the members of the congregation and my colleagues on the ministry team, the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore and the Reverend Jay Brooks, it is my privilege to welcome you to our Memorial Day observance. We begin by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, with these words. We light our chalice in honor of those who've lived lives of service. It is a gift of life that we can choose to be for others as much as we choose to be for ourselves. We kindle this flame with reverence for life and the freedom to choose day by day how we will use our lives. Since 1868, Memorial Day has been a day set apart from all others to remember, to honor, and to offer gratitude to the men and later women who've served in the United States military and who have had their lives cut short during their service. Today, let us honor those who gave their lives in service to something larger than themselves, something far more complex than our freedoms. Let us remember and honor those who gave their lives in service to a nation that for all its blemishes promises that we are equal one to another, that each person matters and has a voice and a vote, and that we can disagree with one another and still be part of this great experiment, this imperfect pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Today, we share testimonials from a few members of the Shelter Rock community who have served in our military or who have a family member serving now. I turn to them.
Hi, I'm Eileen Haas.
And I'm Larry Haas, and we're members of the UUCSR congregation who would like to say a few words about our son. What do you call 135 men and women who voluntarily walk into a machine that they know is going to sink more than 1,000 feet below the surface of the ocean?
To us, they are our heroes. We would like to tell you a little bit about one of them, our son, Aaron Haas. This is him. His dream was always to serve our country, which he is currently doing as we speak, as he is deployed. He signed up after graduating college because he said someone's got to do it.
At this moment, we know he is somewhere east of Montauk Point. Sometimes months go by without hearing from him, and as he carries out his mission.
Then, one day, out of the blue, we will get a short email or a quick phone call, which will brighten up our day or night.
We're very proud of him.
As an old-time member of the congregation from Plandome days and as a veteran of World War II, Reverend Browers asked me to comment on Memorial Day. My father was in World War I was in World War II. One of my sons was in Vietnam, so this war thing just continues about every generation. Hopefully, though, at some point will maybe mankind, as contrasted with humankind, will get some sense in their heads.
As I approached my graduation from Hofstra in May of 1970, with a draft lottery number of 34, I decided to avoid being sent to Vietnam as an infantryman by enlisting for 3 years in the Army, with a guarantee of being trained as a clerk. Unfortunately for me, I got sent to Vietnam anyway, as a clerk, and spent 5 months processing troops in and out in Cam Ranh Bay. At least it was one of the safest places in Vietnam to be on the Central Coast. The work was numbingly boring, and I saw an ad in the Stars and Stripes for a reporter position with that Defense Department daily newspaper. I had worked 4 years for Newsday before I enlisted, covering high school sports to put myself through college. It turned out that I was the only applicant for the Stripes job, and I shipped out for Saigon on January 1 of 1972. For the first 3 months, during a quiet time in the war, I wrote puff pieces on units and the men in them: grunts, repairmen, armored personnel carrier drivers, pilots, helicopter maintenance guys, a chaplain. But for the last 4 months during the North Vietnamese Army's Easter offensive, I flew to every major base in the country and wrote stories about those who risked their lives in the final days of U.S. combat involvement. The stories became the basis for my 2015 self-published memoir, Heroes to the End. Military service was something I accepted as the price for citizenship, and it had never occurred to me to flee to Canada or declare myself a conscientious objector. I was the son of a Marine Corps Master Sergeant and the grandson of a World War I Navy man. My 6 uncles had all served in World War II, and 2 of them fought at the Battle of the Bulge, living to tell about it. More than 50 alumni at my high school, Chaminade, have been killed in combat over the years, so I was really groomed for military service, and it was natural for me to enlist. As I traveled to battle zones around South Vietnam, I got to feel that every unit was my unit, and I was treated as somebody who could be trusted. I often delivered copies of my newspaper to far-flung troops on fire bases on hilltops. I watched airstrikes being called in on enemy positions. I felt the ground shake when B-52s dropped their awesome payloads. I got caught up in the adrenaline rush of the war, and as time went on, I took more and more risks. It was the most exciting time of my life. I lived in a hotel in Saigon. I wore civilian clothes. I could let my hair grow. I had a girlfriend. We went to the movies and French restaurants and took an air-conditioned station wagon to the beach. It was an idyllic part of my life. However, 6 people I wrote about or knew were killed during those 4 months, including John Paul Vann, the subject of the book A Bright Shining Lie, Newsweek reporter Alex Shimkin, and an information officer who I knew as Captain Ivy, who had his head blown off by a B-40 rocket at a fire base that was overrun. The next morning I was at that base, and I saw a bloody fatigue jacket that was the subject of many bad dreams that I had, because I figured that it was probably Ivy's. I never saw his body. Anyway, I remember all of those 6 KIAs on Memorial Day every year. On April 30th, 1975, when Saigon fell, I locked myself in the bathroom at my mother's house, crying and bleeding out of my nose. It was a mini nervous breakdown. I pounded the wall and screamed, 58,000 dead. For what? I felt my service had been meaningless, that war is futile, and that it was all a tremendous waste. When I got out of the service in June of '73, I wound up joining Veterans for Peace. I eventually marched in Manhattan against the planned war in Iraq. I joined the Shelter Rock congregation, and I actually ran a program on peace there with members of anti-war organizations and the UU Service Committee. In 2006, I joined the board at United Veterans Beacon House, which now runs 49 homeless shelters for veterans and others. I'm now a member of VFW posts in Port Washington and Boca Raton, Florida. So my attitude about war changed, but my attitude about my service also changed. After 9/11, I counseled my son, Pete, who was gung-ho to serve at that time and eager for revenge, against enlisting. My work with Beacon House stems from my kinship with the casualties of war, the homeless, the mentally challenged, the chemically dependent. Every day is Memorial Day for me, and for many of them. And we shouldn't remember the dead only 2 days a year, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. We should remember them every day of the year. Thank you. Take care.
Hello, everybody. I know there are a million stories, Army war stories, and many terribly sad and stories that are very pathetic. But there were also moments when there were things to laugh about. Hank and I were each in the service. I was in the Army Nurse Corps. Hank was in the Engineer or the Signal Corps. And we each had basic training. And Hank had basic training for 6 weeks, learning to take orders. And I had a commission, because I'm a registered nurse, and I was spending 6 weeks learning how to give orders. And that's the story of our 76 years of marriage. Thank you, U.S. Army.
And it's been working fine. I like our orders, they're very good. Well, we get along so well.
Thank you all. Happy Memorial Day.
I invite you to join with me in meditating upon the words of Jennifer Cottrell, a Unitarian Universalist layperson in Illinois. We remember those who joined the armed forces by choice, and those who had no choice. We remember those who fought in wars with just cause, and those that had no just cause. We remember those who sacrificed their lives for wars they believed in, and those who sacrificed their lives for wars they did not. We remember those who have gone missing and were never found. We remember those civilians who have died as collateral damage in times of war. We remember the loved ones those lost have left behind. We pray for our world leaders, that they make wise choices that prevent war. We pray for those around the world who are currently suffering the ravages of war. And we pray for the peacemakers who strive for the end to many conflicts all around the world. Today we remember. We remember and we pray for peace. I share with you as we prepare to extinguish our chalice the words of Augusta Chapin, written in 1897. The greatest name will perish from human history. The finest monument will crumble into dust, and the time will come when our names will be lost and our places know us no more. Yet we shall survive in the memories of our friends and others as long as the remembrance will serve any good purpose. And then our work and thought and influence will mingle with the great ocean of human achievement. And the sum total of that will be something more and something different from what it would have been without us. Our presence and the deeds of our living hold meaning. The way that we touch this world matters. Precious and unrepeatable. We are each called to serve this world as only we can. May we feel inspired to go forth and do just that. Do whatever it is we are called to do. We give thanks for the service of each life. Thank you for joining us today.